Welcome back to 5 Acres Honey Farm. I'm Tara Lynn, and today I wanted to share with you a few things that I do every fall for the bees, and some of that has to do with some hurricane preparation. And we haven't had anything I've seen, at least in the news this year, with any hurricanes, but I thought it was really interesting because when I was putting together what I wanted to show you today, this morning, my Instagram memories, it showed that 4 years ago that we were getting the hive strapped down for hurricane flow. So it's definitely a good time of year to be thinking about it. And of course, hurricane season started months ago, so these are some things you could have in place. But at least here in our region, typically like the most hurricane pressure is like September, October time. Plus, some of these little preparations for fall, I'm actually going to be able to show you some updates on some other projects that I have. So let's go take a look at the hives. This hive on the right, the smaller one, this one has a top feeder on it. So what I like to do in the fall are the colonies that look like they might need some food. I just keep the feeders on all the time. Of course, they're not full of any syrup all the time, but they're just there just in case. You can see here, I just wanted to kind of point out this little stake in the ground, and there's actually like a bunch of little orange stakes. So we put those on the front and the back of the hive, and then we use those to use ratchet straps to secure the hives down. So if we are expecting some storms like a hurricane or any high winds, those are already in place, so it's pretty simple for us to just come out and get those on. What I wanted to show you with the robbing screen, and you might hear some little cheeping next to me because these little babies are still here. And this is actually a robbing screen that is sized for a nuke box. So on the full-size ones, there are 2 of these doors that are on the bottom. And the way this works is it just sits on the front of the hive, and typically, you'll just have this open during, the nectar flow and the main season. And then what's nice is like if you keep these on year round, then if you have any issues, you'll just, close it up, and you can keep the hive closed for a few hours so that whoever is robbing and bothering them kind of loses interest. And then you can just open this one, and that way the bees will learn where to exit and where to enter, but usually then the robbers don't realize where they would be going in. So what I like to do at this time of the year is I keep it only on this smallest setting. So this is the only entrance into the hives. They would have to go down and then in to get in there. And the other thing that I'll do is that when I'm doing hive inspections, I leave this open, but I open this because if there are any dead bees or debris in the hive that they need to remove, it's really challenging, if sometimes impossible, for a bee to like carry it up and fly away with it. So they might be leaving things here at the bottom, and so it's an opportunity for them to clean it out. And then when I'm done inspecting, I'll just take my hive tool and scrape anything that I see there. But lately it's been fairly empty, so no big deal. So the other thing that I'd like to do in the fall, and I think this is a good way to demonstrate it. I just noticed that one of these frames here, so I just pulled this out of the freezer, but one of the frames moved. Sorry about this. There we go. Okay. So the thing that I like to do, so like let's just imagine this is the very top super on the colony. So generally you have your inner cover, and then you'll put your top cover on, and usually when you put your top cover on, get this here, you leave a gap right up in here. So that way there is some ventilation through that hole right up there, right here. And the bees also use this little space to come in and out. It's like a little back door. However, during robbing season, this is a great way for other colonies to get in. So this time of the year, I push this forward. I usually use my hive tool and just really make sure it's tight on there. So this is closed, and I do not open this until like robbing season is really past, usually around Thanksgiving or so here in the North Carolina, Piedmont area. So I make sure that that is open all winter because they need to have that ventilation, or the moisture building up when it's cold is going to be fatal for them. But this time of the year, what's fatal is having opportunities for robber bees to get in there. So always keep that closed in the fall. That's what I do at least.
So this may not just be a fall thing; it's kind of a year-round thing. But as you've seen in recent videos, this pond has been kind of a thorn in my side the past few years, and I finally did the upgrades that I wanted to do to it this week. So there's actually three levels to it, and the bees are already happily using it. And I set up those rocks at the bottom so that they have their space for getting in and out. And I like to make sure that they have this water available year round, but it's really important this time of year because it's still really hot. And even on a day like today where it's really comfortable and mild in the 70s, overcast, they're still really busy in here. But oh, what's really cool is way back there, that little critter, I forget the actual name of it, but those are like little bee catchers and they feed on the bees. And so I do find them around the bee yard sometimes, but it's kind of interesting that one is there and that it drowned, and it almost looks like it's holding a bee too. So this is in a really good place, I feel like, for fall. And then my next phase is going to be removing all of these weeds all through here. Those were not there at the beginning of the season. So I've got to pull those out. And I've got a lot of good planting areas here, so I'm getting some good seeds in. I'm going to move the bee balm over here. And maybe you could help me with this. This is either pennyroyal or St. John's wort. I had gotten seedlings for both, and then the tags fell off and the other plant died. So this hasn't flowered this year, but they think they both have yellow flowers. This has yellow flowers, but I'm not sure what it is, so let me know.
To close this out, the 6 tips I have for preparing your hives for the fall are to keep a feeder on for any of the hives that you feel like may need to be fed, and just keep an eye on their food stores to see if you need to feed them. Make sure that you have a plan in place for a hurricane or other types of seasonal natural disasters that may happen in your region. So, I've got the stakes, and of course, like if we were going to get a massive storm, I'd probably be considering moving the colonies, or at least removing the queens and like putting her in a nuke and actually like moving further inland. To use robbing screens, as you saw, all of my colonies have robbing screens on them right now, and keeping them on the smallest opening possible, and keeping the inner cover closed if you don't have a top feeder on there and you're using a traditional inner cover, but keep that entrance closed so that you only have one small entrance to prevent getting robbed out. And number 5 is keeping your water source available at all times. So that's pretty much a year-round thing, but don't want it to be forgotten in the fall, because it is still, the weather here is still fairly hot on some days, so they really need to have that to keep the colony at the right temperature. And the final tip is to use fall as a great time for your fall planting and getting new planting spaces set up, and whether you're dividing bulbs or dividing plants or seeding, planting trees, it's just a really good time to get plants established, because this is when they can get their roots established before winter, so that way next spring they can take off and provide some more forage for your colonies. So if you've got any tips on how you prepare your hives for the fall, please comment and let me know. And I'd love to add some more traditions to the changing of the season. Thanks.